Billionaire harassed waitress. You won't believe what his father did next at 3 a.m. The air buzzed with tension at the upscale restaurant, where elegantly dressed patrons sipped their 20 cocktails, completely oblivious to the tsunami of chaos brewing behind the scenes. Lila, a waitress barely scraping by, knew tonight was different. The icy grip of dread tightened in her chest as she watched the door swing open. In strolled Jonathan Hart, the billionaire heir, his icy blue eyes casting a shadow over the bustling room. The whispers followed him, a mix of admiration and disdain, like a heavy fog hanging in the air. He prowled through the place with a swagger that unnerved even the most seasoned servers. And then he spotted her. A fleeting smirk crossed his face. She felt it slice through the crowd's chatter and land like a stone in her gut. Heart pounding, Lila could barely focus on the orders streaming in. The smell of truffle oil and rich desserts faded away as he approached her like a predator closing in on its prey. An electric charge zapped between them, making the hairs on her arms stand up. Then he leaned closer, his breath cold as winter. "I'll have you tonight." The words hung thick in the air, a threat cloaked in an invitation. Lila's stomach twisted, and she could taste fear clawing its way up her throat. Then came the first unusual element. During the earlier rush, she spilled a drink on a table covered with vintage champagne flutes, only to have one pop up and burst at the seam. The patrons gasped as foam erupted, bathing them in a frothy shower. Laughter echoed, but not everyone joined in. Lila's heart sank further. What if this was a sign? What if tonight spiraled into a night of horror she couldn't escape? The clock ticked louder, each tick amplifying her unease. It felt like time itself was charging toward a cliff, with her on it, terrified. Suddenly, she noticed the back door swinging open as the clock struck 3. An ominous breeze swept through the restaurant, carrying whispers of secrets and promises. Patrons exchanged nervous glances, and Lila felt the heavy weight of fate pressing down on her shoulders. Her palms were slick, clammy. Had something sinister just entered the scene? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." The door swung shut with a loud bang, and Lila's heart stopped. The restaurant's ambience changed, laughter turned into whispers of worry. Suddenly, a tall, shadowy figure appeared, blocking the light from the bar as if it had come to devour the evening whole. It was Jonathan's father, a man known only through sordid rumors and hushed conversations, a billionaire with a reputation that chilled the bones of even the bravest souls. His icy gaze swept over the room, and Lila felt herself freeze, unable to move as he scanned the crowd. Was this the moment everything changed? What would he want from her? And just like that, the tension peaked. Hearts raced in unison. Every eye turned to the hallowed figure, whose presence was felt like an earthquake rumbling beneath the surface. If she thought Jonathan was dangerous, how would she survive his father's wrath? She felt her breath hitch. Desperation clawed at her. Would she really have to confront the VIP table next, or would this plunge them all into a world of far darker choices? This was no ordinary night, something was brewing, and she was at the epicenter. What would happen next in the depths of that shadowy restaurant? The figure moved forward, each deliberate step echoing like a death knell in Lila's ears. The restaurant's chatter faded to a haunting whisper, and then silence enveloped them like a shroud. Lila felt a bead of sweat trickle down her back as she tried to gauge the man's intentions through the darkness of his demeanor. Around her, the patrons instinctively leaned back, their drinks forgotten, eyes wide with fear and an undeniable sense of foreboding. Why is she still here? Jonathan's father, Richard Hart, asked, his voice a low growl that sent shivers down Lila's spine. The disdain in his tone could cut through glass. He moved closer, invading her personal space. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat the size of a fist. "I am just doing my job," she stammered, searching for a flicker of strength within herself. The words felt hollow against the weight of laughter and whispers. The gloss of her uniform couldn't mask the tremor in her hands. "Your job." He laughed, but it was devoid of humor, more like the echo of a predator sizing up its prey. "You don't know what you're getting into, do you?" His piercing gaze bore into hers, as if searching for weakness, for fear, and he wouldn't have to look far, the tension amplified, prickling through the air. Lila glanced at Jonathan, desperate for anything to signal that he would stand up for her. But he was frozen, watching the scene unfold with an unsettling amalgamation of curious intrigue and annoyance, like a son witnessing a familiar spectacle. "You think I won't take notice of what goes on under my roof?" Richard continued, crowding her space. "You're beneath me, and I don't tolerate insolence." With a flick of his wrist, he motioned to one of the bar's security staff to step closer. The man approached with deliberate slowness, a muscle-bound force ready to meet any challenges Richard might issue. Lila's heart raced. She could feel the air thickening around her, suffocating, and yet every instinct told her to fight back. "I didn't do anything wrong. I spilled a drink. It was an accident." Richard leaned even closer, and for a moment, time stood still. Lila could feel the heat radiating off him, a wall of fury and authority. "Do you think it ends with spilled drinks? There are rules here, girl. Things can get ugly if you don't play along." His voice dropped to a whisper, the words swirling with menace. "And trust me, I can make it very ugly." Before Lila could respond, a commotion erupted at the far end of the restaurant. A group of diners stood up, shouting. Someone was pointing toward the exit, where shadows collided with the moonlight like demons escaping the darkness. Confusion spread like wildfire, and Lila instinctively turned, her heart racing faster. Whatever was happening outside, it was drawing attention away from her. In the blink of an eye, Richard's attention shifted, and he momentarily let go of the intensity he had directed at her. Lila seized the moment like a lifeline, her thoughts racing. This could be her chance to escape, but escape to what? The question gnawed at her. The reckless energy spiraling in the room could unleash chaos. As the restaurant buzzed with shock and whispers, Lila's mind raced. Would she risk confronting Richard again? Or would she plunge headfirst into the madness outside, the unknown? What lay beyond those doors was a mystery haunting her every thought. In that tense moment, she knew she had a choice, one that would change everything, and just as she took a breath to make her decision, a deafening crash echoed through the restaurant. The door burst open again, lurching on its hinges as a dark figure slammed into the room. What lurked behind those flashlit shadows? One thing was certain, the night was far from over, and the revelations were just beginning. The dark figure stumbled into the restaurant, momentarily silhouetted against the glowing streetlights outside. Lila's breath caught in her throat as she squinted, trying to process the intruder's appearance amidst the chaos of voices and shocked faces. A hood obscured the stranger's features, and the air seemed to thicken with tension, like the moments before a storm breaks. Patrons shifted in their seats, eyes darting between the newcomer and Richard, who had regained his poise. "What the hell is this?" he barked, irritation clawing at his composure. The room went silent again, a breath held in anticipation. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a young man, one hand clutching a bulging backpack as he panted. His eyes glimmered with wild desperation, darting between Richard and Lila. "Help! You have to help me. They're coming." Panic dripped from his voice, raw and insistent. Lila was caught in the gravitational pull of his fear. "Who is coming?" she asked, her pulse quickening again, like a drumbeat of dread. The stranger shook his head, hair tumbling from the hood, revealing just enough of his youthful face, a flash of alarm sharp against the backdrop of foreboding. "I don't have time," he shouted, shifting nervously, every sound that reverberated around him building the paranoia that radiated from his being. Richard stepped forward, brows knitted in displeasure. This isn't some charity venue. You don't just barge in, please. The young man interrupted, voices overlapping. I can't. Suddenly, the restaurant door slammed against the wall again, pushing inside with enough force to rattle the pictures hanging nearby. Several patrons gasped. It was as if the air itself bristled with electric uncertainty. Another figure emerged, this one imposing, clothed in dark, tailored gear that resembled a military uniform, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. Get away from him! The newcomer barked, locking eyes on the boy in the hood. The authoritative command sliced through the room like a dagger, and those nearby instinctively took a step back, anxious to see what might happen next. Lila's heart raced again. Questions nibbled at every corner of her mind. What was happening? Who were these people, and why was there such fear written across the boy's face? Richard, however, was unfazed, his expression darkening. You think you can just waltz in here with some half-baked story and disrupt my business? His voice dripped with contempt, and he laughed bitterly, but the sound was a threat, reverberating off the walls. Look around. The military figure shouted, gesturing wildly. This isn't your turf any longer. We need to secure this place. Now. Lila stood frozen. Chaos bubbled, and she was stuck in its center. The fear and uncertainty tangled around her, and she could feel a surge of adrenaline pushing each breath deeper into her lungs. Lila, you need to. Jonathan suddenly broke from the crowd, looking frantic, eyes wide as he met her gaze. We should get out of here. It felt like a spark igniting dry woods. What was happening? She could feel the weight of all eyes shifting back to her as Richard's simmering anger pulsed in the air, and the urgency of the boy's plea echoed through the chamber. There was no right answer, just a torrent of uncertainty. What are you afraid of? Richard hissed, locking his gaze onto Lila for a moment that seemed to stretch on, making her feel exposed and raw. Suddenly, the military figure spoke directly to Lila, breaking the tension like glass shattering against the hard ground. Listen, you have to trust me. There's a reason we're here, and we need your help. It's going to get worse. A piercing scream erupted from the back of the restaurant, renewed panic erupting like a gunshot. Run! The military figure yelled, and just as quickly, the atmosphere shifted back to pure chaos. Lila's instincts screamed at her to act. Should she follow Jonathan and his ad hoc escape? Or should she dive further into the fray, confronting whatever might be coming? With her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest, she made her choice. Hands trembling as she steeled herself for what lay ahead. And as she surged forward, she couldn't shake the feeling that this night was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. Lila pushed through the throngs of terrified patrons, the chaos spiraling around her like a whirlwind. The military figure's voice became a distant echo, overshadowed by the rising tide of panic. Get down! He shouted again, and a scuffle broke out by the entrance, the sound of crashing chairs and muffled shouts roiling in the air. Jonathan's hand grazed her wrist, jerking her back. What are you doing? He whispered, his voice strained with urgency. We need to go. No. She pulled away, her determination hardening quickly. We can't just leave him. She pointed at the boy, the stranger whose frightened gaze darted toward the door. A loud bang reverberated from outside, mixing with the frantic cries inside. Instinctively, Lila squared her shoulders, her heart hammering loud enough to drown out the world. She took a step closer to the boy, discarding rational thought. This was no longer just about survival. She felt a pull to help, to confront whatever dark cloud loomed outside. Stay close. The military man called, and the boy turned towards Lila, recognition and fear battling in his eyes. You don't know what's out there. They won't stop. But even as her instincts shouted for escape, curiosity fueled her resolve. Who's coming? Lila demanded, leaning in, urgency coding each word. The boy finally looked her way, desperation twisting his face, and in that moment, something shifted. You don't understand. They're not just after me. They want everyone, even you. The military figure stepped between them and Lila, protective and seething. Enough. He barked, causing the boy to flinch. We have to go. Now. With a sudden movement, the door swung wide, and another man clad in a similar uniform burst inside, panting as if he'd been running for miles. A flash of recognition crossed the first soldier's face, swiftly followed by a grim resolve. What have you found? He questioned, eyeing the boy warily, as if he were a ticking time bomb. Back entrance, the newcomer gasped. They're closing in. Tension crackled like static. Lila felt the air thicken, the shadows deepened, mingling with her confusion. Come on! Shouted the soldier, motioning toward the kitchen. It's our only chance. Richard, now livid, shouted back, you can't take my customers. But his control was fragmenting, the facade of authority snapped in half under the weight of escalating terror. In that second, everything surged forward. Lila felt Jonathan's grip tighten on her arm as he urged her toward the rear of the restaurant, the urgency palpable. But just as she began to move, her eyes locked onto the boy, panic pooling in his gaze. Don't just leave him. Lila cried, almost pleading, almost realizing the stakes. Before she could act, a loud crash echoed from outside, a moment of stunning silence followed by an explosion of shouts. The restaurant seemed to tremble. The dining room was no longer a place of refuge, it was a battleground. Follow me. The military man bellowed, dragging the boy away from the chaos, and Lila's blood ran cold. Her heart wrestled with 1,000 thoughts. This wasn't just some reckless night. There were real threats lurking beyond those walls, but something primal howled inside of her. The burning need to know what had ensnared them all in this nightmare. Lila. Jonathan's voice cut through, yanking her gaze back. We're leaving. She could feel the compulsion to choose burning inside her. Run, or stand and fight. As she hesitated, a shadow darted through the restaurant door, a figure advancing with chilling steadiness. Time slowed, every heartbeat became thunderous, and a wave of icy dread washed over her. She had to decide, and fast. What was outside? Why had the boy begged for help? Before she could answer those questions, the figure reached the doorway, and she felt every eye in the room fixate on what came next. A figure stepped forward, tall and menacing, like a storm cloud rolling in. The flickering lights above cast an eerie glow, illuminating sharp features that twisted into a snarl. Lila's pulse quickened as she locked eyes with the intruder, who pushed through the shattered doorway with an intimidating gait, as if he owned the night. Get back, the military man shouted, raising a weapon that gleamed ominously. The diners shrank back against walls and tables, the clatter of chairs falling into silence. Lila felt John's fingers tighten around her wrist, his anxiety a thin veil over her own dread. The man stood with deliberate calm, his gaze cutting through the din like a knife. We're coming for the boy. You can't protect him, he announced, his voice dripping with contempt. The air thickened with palpable fear, threading through the crowd and coiling itself around Lila's throat. Why? Lila shouted, surprising even herself. The pull of uncertainty clashed with a desperate need for answers. What does he mean to you? The figure smirked, a flash of malevolence that chilled her. He leaned forward slightly, eyes glinting like a predator that had just spotted its prey. He means everything to me. And now a slight pause, relishing the moment. He's going to lead us right to you. A ripple of panic spread like wildfire. Lila's heart raced, the realization embedding itself deep within her. Whoever this man was, he was willing to do whatever it took to seize his prize. The room brimmed with whispers of uncertainty, fingers pointing toward the boy, fear settling in each breath. Move. Now. The military man barked. He gripped the boy's shoulder tightly, as if trying to shield him from the chaos unspooling around them. Lila stepped forward instinctively, pumping adrenaline through her veins. No. He needs to, but before she could finish, the intruder lunged. The scene shifted like a film reel, the slow-motion feeling sharpening every detail, the sound of glass shattering on the floor, the sharp intake of breath from others around her, the boy's wide eyes that seemed to scream at her for help. "Get out of here!" The military man yelled at Lila, shoving the boy toward the kitchen. As the boy stumbled backward, she caught a glimpse of his terrified expression, one of betrayal and fear. Jonathan pulled Lila back, his voice rising over the tension. "We can't just stay here. We need to run." His grip on her arm was firm, but desperation vibrated beneath his hold. "No. I can't leave him." The words burned out of her, a raw plea layered with intuition. If they left now, would it haunt her forever, the face of the boy they abandoned? Suddenly, the chaos erupted. The intruder stormed forward, slamming into the soldier. There was no hesitation in their movements. His fist collided with the military man, and Lila felt the air turn electric with desperation. Tables toppled as people scrambled. "Help!" The boy's voice rang out, cutting through the noise, a last thread of hope dawning amidst despair. Lila didn't think. She raced toward him, drawing every ounce of bravery from the depth of her fear. She felt the heat of the moment, adrenaline coursed through her, feeding determination into her every step. There was no way she would allow him to suffer alone. With each step, she felt the weight of the unknown pressing down, urging her on. But just as her fingers reached toward the boy, another figure appeared in the kitchen doorway, one she hadn't noticed before, holding a weapon similar to the soldier's. "Stop!" The new figure shouted, but Lila barely had time to react, adrenaline blurring the edges of her mind. The tension reached a breaking point. Would she save the boy or face whatever menace lurked behind her? Lila had to choose how far she was willing to go for someone she barely knew. The shadows of doubt tangled with determination. The moment stretched, a breath held on the edge of chaos. What lay ahead? What awaited them beyond the doorway? Lila's heart hammered as though it wanted to leap from her chest. The chaos that surrounded her felt like an ocean, waves crashing against her resolve in tumultuous currents. She had to act, and fast. The intruder was barreling toward the military man who had tried to protect the boy, a blur of muscles and hostility. It was like watching a train wreck, horrifying yet impossible to look away. Lila squeezed past the scattered tables, her feet barely touching the ground. With every step she took, she could hear the boy's voice echoing in her mind, "Help." It consumed her thoughts, igniting a fierce protectiveness she didn't know she was capable of. She launched herself toward him, determination igniting every nerve ending, but the newcomer in the doorway loomed larger, a predator trapping her in its sights. "Get away from him!" Lila shouted, adrenaline sharpening her voice. She didn't know what she planned to do. All she knew was that there was no way she'd allow that sinister figure to take the boy. Suddenly, the military man struck back. He twisted, handling the attack with surprising agility, but Lila's eyes were glued to the boy. The brief distraction allowed the intruder to gain the upper hand, landing a blow that sent the soldier crashing backward. The crowd gasped collectively. Hope fractured as the chaos unfolded, and Lila's heart sank. The boy glanced at her, eyes wide and terrified. "Please," he mouthed silently, stretching out a trembling hand. It was a plea for salvation, the kind that demanded sacrifice and courage. Without thinking, Lila lunged forward. Her decision, raw and instinctual, felt like stepping off a cliff into unknown depths. She caught a glimpse of fear in the boy's eyes, and it propelled her further. She had to reach him. A noise erupted behind her, another crash echoed, metal clanging against metal. She didn't look back, she could feel the presence of the intruder closing in like a shadow poised to swallow her whole. Time slowed as she fumbled her way through the debris, heart racing. "Let him go." The command erupted from her lips, filled with raw desperation. The intruder hesitated, caught off guard by her sudden ferocity. For a brief heartbeat, it felt like she had snatched control of the moment. But the pause didn't last. The intruder glanced at her dismissively, as if she were nothing more than a pesky fly buzzing annoyingly in his ear. "You can't protect him," he sneered, his voice a strangled growl, Lila reached the boy and grabbed his arm firmly. Relief washed over her in waves, but the danger was still present, she could sense it. The boy's chest heaved, and she could feel the tremors racing through him. She needed to act. "Come on. We have to go," Lila shouted, pulling him toward a side exit away from the chaos. In that split second, she scanned the room, looking for any signs of hope. Other diners pressed against the walls, faces ashen, fear evident. Just then, a commotion erupted on the opposite side. The soldier had regained his footing, tackling the intruder, their scuffle destroying what little serenity remained. The boy stumbled to keep pace, fear etched into the boy's face. "What if they catch us?" he asked, his voice shaky. Lila's grip tightened. "They won't." But doubt crept in. Could she truly protect him? The booming clash behind them reverberated through her bones, a gnawing ache of real danger. Suddenly, a series of explosions shattered the air outside. The windows rattled violently, splintering glass raining down like a storm. It sent shockwaves through the crowd, and Lila's stomach dropped. "Run!" she screamed, instinctively pulling the boy toward the exit. But before they could flee, the intruder managed to barrel through, eyes wild and dangerous. "You're not leaving," he hissed, his gaze fixed on them as if they were nothing but game pieces in a sick game. Lila's breath caught in her throat. Panic surged through her. What now? As she stood there, the boy clutched her hand tightly, his fear feeding her own. The room buzzed with terror, and without a plan, they were trapped. The next move would determine their fate. Would she find the strength to stand her ground, and could she protect the boy from the darkness threatening to engulf them both? Time stilled, waiting for her answer, uncertain and fraught with dread. What imminent threat awaited them in the shadows? Desperation ripped through her soul. Lila's breath caught as the intruder advanced, his silhouette cutting a menacing figure in the dim lighting. Heart racing, she felt the weight of the boy's grip tightening around her hand. She cast a desperate glance around the room, searching for an escape, but every face seemed frozen in horror, paralyzed by the unfolding nightmare. "Please don't hurt him," Lila pleaded, her voice breaking. The words hung in the air, heavy and charged. She didn't care if he could hear her, she needed to believe her plea would somehow matter. The intruder smirked, a cruel twist of his lips. "You think your pathetic courage means anything?" he taunted. In a flash, he lunged forward, eyes calculating like a hawk fixating on its prey. Without thinking, Lila pushed the boy behind her. She felt the warmth of his small body colliding against her back, which only fueled her resolve. "Back off!" she screamed, the wildness in her voice surprising even herself. But deep inside, dread clawed at her, urging her to run. Did she really stand a chance against someone like him? The weight of the moment pressed down with suffocating intensity. Before she could think, the soldier surged back into the fray, grappling with the intruder again. Their movements were fierce, a blend of desperation and anger that sent shockwaves through the crowd. With every bone-crushing slam, Lila's heart raced faster. Could he hold him off long enough for her and the boy to escape? The blast of another explosion outside sent shards of glass cascading across the floor, breaking the moment. Lila instinctively shoved the boy down, shielding him as the noise reverberated around them. They were running out of time, the chaos outside felt like an avalanche ready to crash in. "Follow me," Lila urged, her voice firm despite the fear surging through her. The boy nodded, determination flashing in his young eyes as he took a step toward her, but the intruder was closer now, a predator homing in on their scent. Suddenly, without warning, the intruder swung wide, knocking the soldier aside as if he were nothing more than a rag doll. Anger contorted his face, raw and unfiltered. "You're a fool to think you can protect him," he roared, lunging toward Lila with newfound fury. Lila instinctively ducked, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The instincts to survive kicked in, she could feel the pulse of the moment, sharp and clear. The boy followed her lead, his small body somehow mimicking her every move. They darted past twisted tables and broken chairs, using the confusion to blend into the shadows. Lila felt her lungs burning, but she pressed forward, heart pounding, each beat a reminder of the urgency. The exit was dangerously close, but could they make it? She shot a glance back. The soldier struggled to regain his footing, the intruder's foot hovering ominously above him like a vulture. Then, through the chaos, Lila locked eyes with the boy. She noticed something flickering there, a spark of courage she hadn't felt. Once we get out, we have to find help. We can't stop. She shouted. Time didn't wait, and she clasped his hand tighter, leading him toward the light pouring in from the side exit. The intruder's voice echoed behind them, thick with menace. You think this is over? I will find you. Panic surged anew, but Lila wouldn't let it overtake her. They were close now, only a few more steps. With a final burst of energy, she sprinted forward. Keep running. Don't look back. But her heart sank the moment the boy stumbled, his knees hitting the ground with a dull thud. She turned instinctively, fear clawing at her throat. No. Would she leave him behind? Or would she risk everything to pull him up again? The darkness loomed, and time hung suspended, waiting for her choice. Could courage triumph over despair in those critical seconds? As she reached down to help him, a deafening crack sounded, and the world around them seemed to tilt. What had she triggered? What awaited them on the other side of the door? The darkness beckoned, heavy and daunting, an abyss they couldn't ignore. Lila's heart raced as she glanced back, uncertainty flooding her veins. The boy looked up at her with wide eyes, the kind of look that could trap her in a moment, holding her there with guilt and fear. But she couldn't linger, not with danger close behind. Come on. She urged, pulling him up from the ground, her grip firm and reassuring. As he stumbled to his feet, the weight of the situation crashed over her. They had to leap into the unknown, but so much was at stake. The intruder howled, his rage palpable, fueled by the chaos around him. You can't escape. He barked, but his voice slipped into the distance as Lila yanked the boy forward, adrenaline surging through her. They dashed toward the exit, the light bathing them in a flickering promise of safety. As they burst through the doorway, the blaring sounds of conflict dimmed, replaced by an unnerving silence that enveloped them momentarily. Lila took a deep breath, her lungs filling with cool air, but her relief was short-lived. They tumbled into the open, the light swallowing them whole. Lila quickly scanned the area, distant shadows of trees and the eerie stillness of the night. Where do we go? The boy asked, his voice trembling despite the brave facade he wore. Just keep running. Lila replied, adjusting her grip around his hand. They took off, stumbling through the tall grass. Each footfall felt like a countdown, her body buzzing with the rush of fear and hope. But then a sharp noise sliced through the darkness. A gunshot rang out, puncturing the fragile calm. Lila's heart dropped into her stomach. Run! She shouted, adrenaline sharpening her senses. They sprinted forward as another crack reverberated behind them. No! She gasped, glancing back just in time to see the intruder emerge from the building, fury etched across his face, gun in hand. They were too close now, the boy lagged slightly behind, his small legs struggling to keep pace. Just a bit further. Lila yelled, her voice carrying over the night. The trees loomed ahead, offering a promise of cover. Suddenly, the boy tripped again, his tiny frame stumbling to the ground once more. Lila's heart froze. She felt a tension in her chest should she leave him. Pushing that thought aside, she quickly knelt beside him, urgency fueling her actions. You can do this. I need you. With strength born from pure desperation, she pulled him up again. Just a few more steps. We can make it. The intruder was relentless. You think you can run forever? His voice was low, menacing. The sound sent shivers up Lila's spine, but she couldn't afford to turn around and let the fear take root. The boy faced her, his eyes wide with terror but also defiance, they made it to the cover of the trees, and the shadows wrapped around them like a blanket. Breathing hard, Lila pressed her back against the rough bark, clutching the boy tightly to her side. "Stay quiet," she whispered, panic wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. The boy nodded, quivering but silent. Lila's mind raced. Where was the soldier? Would he catch up? And what about the intruder? Seconds felt like hours as tension hung heavy in the air. She could hear the intruder's footsteps crunching through the foliage, slower now, as if he were picking the right moment to pounce. Her knuckles whitened around a branch, an idea igniting in her mind. "If he finds us, we'll have to fight back," she whispered to the boy. Then, just as the intruder drew nearer, the trees rustled behind them. A shadow moved, larger and more defined. Lila's breath caught again, heart thudding wildly as she turned her head, praying it wasn't him. But as the darkness stepped forward, glimmers of silver glinted in the pale moonlight. Who or what had joined the fray? Were they friend or foe? A shadowy figure stepped into view, slowly revealing their face, someone she never expected to see. Lila, over here. The voice was familiar, but did she dare trust it? Lila's heart raced again, but this time it wasn't just fear. Confusion twisted her gut as she squinted at the figure emerging from the shadows. It was Danny, her older brother, lost to her for so long, but there he was, alive and standing right in front of them. She felt a rush of emotion swelling within as relief battled with the reality of their dire situation. "Danny!" she whispered fiercely, as though speaking too loudly would break the spell. "Is it really you?" "Yeah, it's me," he said, his voice strained but steady. "We don't have much time. The intruder is close." "Who is he?" the boy asked, stepping closer to Lila, eyes darting between her and Danny, seeking answers. "Just someone who's after us. We need to move," Danny urged, scanning the surrounding darkness. The look on his face told her he knew just how dangerous things were. "But we can't just leave," Lila protested, her mind racing. "What if he catches up? We can't stay here." "Trust me, Lila," Danny replied, glancing over his shoulder, unease painting his features. "We need to get to safety, and I know a place. Follow me." Taking a deep breath, Lila looked down at the boy. A flicker of determination stirred inside her. They had fought hard to escape so far, there was no way she'd turn back now. "Okay," she said, squeezing the boy's hand again. "Stay close to us." As Danny led the way deeper into the forest, the trees closed in tightly around them, shrouding them in darkness. Lila's heart pounded in her ears, a background rhythm to the panic around them. Danny was a few paces ahead, guiding them through the twisting paths and thickets, but Lila couldn't shake the uncertainty hovering around her. "Where are we going?" she whispered, worry creeping into her voice. "To a safe house I know," Danny replied, glancing back briefly. "I came to find you when I heard you were in trouble. You can trust me, Lila." But could she? The last time she saw him, he was deep in a world of trouble himself, tangled in dangerous deals and bad decisions. Had he changed? Or was he still the reckless brother she had feared losing? A chilling howl broke through the night air, a reminder of their pursuer. The boy whimpered next to her, and Lila's heart fractured at the sound. "We'll be okay," she promised, but even she wasn't convinced. Danny quickened his pace, and they followed, every step amplifying the sense of dread coiling in her stomach. She could feel the prickle of air as the intruder's footsteps grew louder, closer, and Lila's instincts told her he was hunting with relentless ferocity. "Can't we hide somewhere?" the boy gasped, panic rising in his voice. "There's nowhere to hide," Danny said with tension layered in his tone. "I'll fend him off if I have to." Lila felt her throat tighten. "What do you mean?" Before Danny could answer, there was a rustle in the underbrush behind them. The breath left Lila's lungs. It was him. The intruder was on their tail, and she could almost hear the thud of her own heartbeat suddenly in sync with the pounding footsteps. "Run!" Danny shouted abruptly, but before they could take another step, a shadow lunged from the brush, crashing toward them with a primal ferocity. "Get down!" Lila screamed, instinctively pulling the boy close, trying to shield him. But the force of the attack sent them all tumbling to the ground. The world spun around her, and all she could think was, would they survive this night? The figure loomed over them, and she barely had time to assess the danger before the darkness closed and, just when all seemed lost, a flicker caught her eye, a glimmer of hope emerging from the chaos. "Help is here!" A voice rang out unexpectedly, piercing through the fog of their imminent doom, but was it too late? Would this be their salvation, or would it be the worst mistake Lila ever made? The world around Lila swirled in chaos, shadows wrestling for dominance, but in that moment of disarray, a powerful noise rang out. It was a voice that carried a weight of authority, cutting through the tension. "Step back." It was the soldier, the same one who had tried to protect the boy. With a furious charge, he emerged from the shadows, brandishing his weapon. The intruder hesitated, surprise playing across his sinister features. "You're a fool." He spat, but the soldier's resolve ignited the air. "Not as much as you think." The soldier moved, every motion precise and calculated, his eyes locking onto Lila and the boy. "Get to safety. Now." Lila could feel a pulse of hope surge within her. But still, fear clung to her like a heavy cloak. She grasped the boy's hand tighter, tugging him toward the soldier, her breath quickening. "Come on." They darted past the soldier, Lila's heart pounding, the urgency pulling them forward even as chaos roiled behind. The soldier and the intruder collided, a flurry of movements, each one staggeringly fierce. Bodies crashed, and the force of their struggle sent vibrations through the earth beneath her feet. They raced deeper into the forest. Lila could hear curses and grunts over the sound of snapping branches, which felt like a heartbeat drumming closer and closer, reminding her of the danger lurking just behind them. The boy matched her pace, mirroring her fear as they sprinted toward what felt like an uncertain haven. "Why are they after you?" she breathed, glancing down at the boy. His face was pale, cheeks glistening with sweat. I don't know," he exclaimed, panic gripping him. "I was just in the wrong place." "Then we can't be in the wrong place anymore," she urged, fierce determination swelling in her. Lila's mind raced with thoughts of escape, every shred of instinct screaming at her to keep moving, but questions taunted her relentlessly. What would happen to them if they got away? Would Richard and his father send others after them? Suddenly, an echo of footsteps crescendoed behind them. They were running out of time. She glanced around, searching for a sign, anything to indicate safety. The trees were dense and looming, a world that confined and concealed. In the distance, a flicker of light, warm and welcoming, broke through the dark. "There." Lila pointed, pulling the boy towards the brightness. "Keep moving." They stumbled out of the thicket and into a clearing illuminated by the soft glow of vintage lanterns. A quaint cabin sat like an oasis in the dark expanse. It felt surreal, almost like a dream, a place where people gathered for warmth, laughter, and memories, not chaos and violence. But as they neared the door, a rumble drove through them. The dark figure was not far behind. With one last glance back, Lila spotted the soldier, grappling with the intruder. Both men were locked in a life-and-death dance. The soldier's face showed defiance, but Lila's heart sank, knowing they wouldn't hold for long. "Please, get inside." The soldier yelled, his voice strained as he pushed his body to shield against his attacker. "Lila." The boy's voice rose, panic lacing his tone. "We have to help him." But Lila hesitated once more, caught in the swell of decision. Could she sacrifice their chance of escape to help someone else? The weight of that choice pressed upon her chest. "Go." The soldier shouted with raw desperation, evident pain wreathing in his voice. "It's too late for me. Just go." Tears brimmed in Lila's eyes as she felt the agonizing pull of loyalty against the relentless tide of survival. She shook her head, turning to the boy with fierce determination. We can't leave him. Suddenly, the soldier's struggle grew fierce, a flash of brilliance in the chaos, allowing Lila's instincts to kick in. Okay. We help him. She decided. But we need to hurry. Together. The boy shouted, his voice laced with newfound bravery. They dashed back towards the battle just as the intruder pinned the soldier against the ground, a moment that felt too long. Lila surged forward, adrenaline fueling her every inch. Hey! She called. Capturing the man's attention just long enough for the soldier to twist and deliver a powerful blow in that instant, the intruder staggered, losing his balance. The soldier took his chance to turn the tide, momentum shifting in their favor. Lila snatched the boy's wrist as they slid into the fray, working together like their lives depended on it. Now! With a forceful push, they launched themselves at the intruder, the soldier's surprise coupled with the combined weight of their will sending the man tumbling away. Run! The soldier yelled, urgency threading through every word in a daring act. They turned and bolted toward the cabin, bursting through the door just as the night was filled with a shout that promised vengeance. The boy's hand was a lifeline in her grasp. There was no choice now. Inside, the air was different. It was safe and hold silence. But outside, chaos reigned. Lock the door. Lila gasped, fumbling to secure it as the pounding footsteps echoed outside. The soldier rushed in behind them, grim and panting, but victory was fleeting. Outside, the intruder shouted commands, calling for reinforcements. You're safe now, Danny spoke, his own voice winding through the air like a shaky promise. He stepped forward, eyes darting from Lila to the boy, gripping her shoulder in support. We need to figure out a plan. The soldier said, glancing toward the windows. The moment hung thick like air before a storm, fraught with fear and fervent hope. Lila took a breath, heart racing but resolve steady. Together, we can fight them back. The boy's voice trembled. What if they come for us? We'll be ready, Lila answered, adrenaline sparking through her veins. They could plan. They would fight. Together in that little cabin cloaked in shadow their lives began anew, not just as survivors, but as warriors ready to face whatever came next. The shadows would not consume them. They would light the way for each other and together, they would emerge from the darkness. But they had to escape the present first. And when the pounding came again at the door, they would not flinch. They were a family forged in the crucible of survival. As they huddled in the cabin's waning light, Lila felt a surge of faith unlike any she had experienced before. This was their moment, their fight. And they would not back down. Now, friends, this is where I need you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive story unfolding. Smash that like button now, it really helps spread this message. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories. I want to hear what you think this battle will bring. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Your support means everything. Be part of this incredible community that thrives on every click. Let us charge ahead together.